Welcome to Alma Tales Lovers, where disrespect gets exposed and humiliation doesn't get the last word. These are the stories of wives and girlfriends who try to shame their husbands and boyfriends in public, weaponize family and friends, and treat love like a power game, until the calm comeback rewrites everything. If you've ever been embarrassed, talked down to, or made to feel less than by the person who should protect you, this channel is for you. Subscribe and turn on notifications for raw, realistic humiliation stories with quiet receipts, cold consequences, and hard lessons. Because respect isn't optional. Let's get into it. She cheated on me, then mocked me for working 2 jobs like I was some kind of clown she was letting live in her house. She didn't whisper it either. She laughed about it on speakerphone, loud enough for me to hear, like humiliating me was part of her nightly routine. I stood there with food in my hands, listening to my wife hand my dignity to another man like it was nothing. Then she looked right at me after, like she wanted to see if I'd break. Here's how it happened. It didn't start with cheating. It started with little disrespect that grew legs and ran through my whole marriage. I'm Darius, born and raised in Houston, the kind of black man who was taught you show love with work. My wife, Nia, and I used to be solid. We met at a cousin's cookout on the south side, both of us pretending we weren't impressed. She laughed at my corny jokes, and I liked that she wasn't scared to roast me right back. Back then, it felt like playful, like we were building something. We got married at a small church in 3rd Ward. Nothing fancy, but my aunties cried like we were royalty. I promised her stability. She promised me loyalty. Funny how promises can rot without making a sound. The first year was good. We lived in a small apartment off Westheimer, sharing 1 car and 1 Netflix account like that meant true commitment. Nia would dance around the kitchen in socks, humming while she cooked, and I'd pretend not to stare like I was still dating her. Some nights we'd sit on the couch and plan our big future, saying things like our house and our kids with that excitement you can't fake. We were broke, but we were together. When I picked up extra shifts, she'd hug me tight and say, "My man is a worker." I held on to that sentence like a trophy. Then life did what life does. Rent went up. Her job got shaky. A few bills piled up. And Nia started saying we were one emergency away from losing everything. It wasn't the fear that got me. It was how she aimed it at me like a weapon. Every problem became a test. I had to pass alone. "Darius, you're the husband," she'd say, like that meant I couldn't be tired. So I picked up a 2nd job driving deliveries at night. My days became warehouse sweat, and my nights became steering wheel aches. I kept telling myself it was temporary. Temporary lasted years. At first, Nia acted supportive. She'd text me little heart emojis when I left, and sometimes she'd wait up for me, half asleep, to ask how my night went. But slowly, her support turned into judgment. If I came home exhausted, she'd roll her eyes like exhaustion was an attitude I chose. If I missed a date night, she'd say I didn't prioritize her, even though I was out making sure the light stayed on. She stopped saying thank you. She started saying, you should make more. You should try harder. You should stop acting like you're special for doing the bare minimum." The humiliation got slick. She'd do it with a smile, so if I reacted, I looked crazy. One time her cousin Keisha came over, and I walked in after a delivery shift, smelling like rain and fried food. Nia looked me up and down and said, "Babe, you look like you wrestled a garbage truck and lost." Keisha laughed so hard she wheezed. I forced a smile because I didn't want to seem sensitive. But later, alone, I stared in the bathroom mirror and saw a man shrinking. A man trying to be loved by earning it. And the worst part was I still wanted her approval like a kid chasing a moving target. We had romantic moments, but they started feeling like commercials in between bad episodes. On my one day off, I'd take her to the water wall near the Galleria, or we'd get tacos and eat in the car like it was a date. Once, I surprised her with roses from Kroger because I didn't have florist money. She laughed, actually laughed, and said, "You so old school." That night, she cuddled close and whispered she appreciated me. I slept like a man who'd finally gotten a drink of water. The next morning, she criticized how I folded towels. That's how it went. A kiss, then a slap. Never with hands, always with words. The cheating entered our marriage like a new perfume. Sudden, strong, and impossible to ignore. Nia started talking about a man at her job named Marquis. He's funny, she'd say. He gets me. Then she'd say it like it was a joke. He told me if I was his, I wouldn't have to stress. I'd laugh awkwardly, trying to be the secure husband. But Marquis' name kept showing up. She'd giggle at her phone late at night. She'd angle her screen away from me. She started wearing more makeup for just work. I noticed everything. I just didn't have proof, and I didn't want to be wrong. One Friday, I came home early because my delivery app crashed. I thought I'd surprise her. I walked in holding her favorite fries, already picturing her smile. I heard her voice from the kitchen, bright, excited, cruel. "Yeah, you about to head back out," she said, laughing. "Working 2 jobs like a little helper. He thinks he's a provider. It's giving pathetic." My stomach dropped so fast it felt like my body forgot how to stand. Marquis' voice came through the speaker, smooth and comfortable in my home. "That's why you got me now." Nia didn't defend me. She smiled and said, period. Like I was trash she was proud to throw away. I stepped into the kitchen, and she didn't even flinch. She didn't scramble. She didn't apologize. She just leaned against the counter and looked at me like I was late with rent. "What you standing there for?" she asked. "You scared?" Her eyes had that dare in them, like she wanted a scene, like she wanted me to explode so she could call me unstable. I didn't scream. I couldn't. It felt like my voice was stuck behind my ribs. I set the fries down slowly, like setting down my pride. She watched me do it and smirked. "You gonna cry, Darius?" she said. And Marquis laughed through the phone like he belonged here. After that, Nia didn't bother hiding anything. She'd come home late and smell like a man's cologne that wasn't mine. She'd leave the room to take calls, then walk back in smiling like she won something. If I asked questions, she'd say I was insecure. If I got quiet, she'd say I was being dramatic. One night, she told me straight up, "I could do what I want. You're too busy chasing tips to keep me entertained." That line stayed with me because it wasn't just insulting, it was accurate about my life. I had been chasing money so hard I forgot to chase respect. The disrespect spread to people around us. Nia's mom, Ms. Loretta, started treating me like I was a temporary worker in Nia's life. At Sunday dinners in Missouri City, she'd say things like a man's supposed to provide, Darius, while chewing slow like she was tasting my failure. Nia's sisters would laugh at work jokes Nia made about me. Even some friends looked at me with that pity face that's worse than hate. Nobody said, "Nia, you wrong." They acted like a man getting cheated on is a personal weakness. Like loyalty is something you only deserve if you're rich enough to be respected. To survive it, I started clinging to small, funny moments like scraps of air. I'd laugh with my warehouse coworker Reggie about how my knees sounded like popcorn when I climbed into my truck. Reggie would say, "Boy, you creak like a haunted house door." I'd laugh because it was either laugh or crumble. Sometimes I'd pull up to a delivery and the customer's dog would bark like it paid rent. One night a Chihuahua tried to fight my tire and I told it, "I don't have time for this, sir." Those little jokes didn't fix my marriage, but they kept me from disappearing inside my own head. Nia decided we needed a bigger home, like space could cover disrespect. She found a house in Katy, new floors, big kitchen, the kind of place that photographs well. She kept saying our upgrade, but when she talked, it sounded like my stage. I asked how we'd afford it. She looked at me like I asked something stupid. "That's why you work 2 jobs, she said. "Don't question me. Just pay what I tell you to pay." That sentence was a warning and a confession. She wasn't building with me. She was using me. And I was so hungry for the marriage to work that I kept nodding like obedience was love. There were still romantic flashes, and that's what made it messy. One weekend, I took her to Galveston because she said she needed a break. We walked the pier, ate funnel cake, and she leaned into me like the old Nia for about 2 hours. She kissed my cheek and said, "You always come through for me." My heart did that stupid hopeful thing. That night in the hotel, she held my hand and laughed at a bad movie like we were normal. Then the next morning, her phone buzzed, she smiled at the screen, and she turned away from me. Romance with someone disrespectful feels like being handed a warm blanket while you're still standing in the rain. When the housewarming party got planned, Nia treated it like a coronation. She made a digital invitation, added glittery fonts, and titled it New Beginnings. That word, beginnings, hit me funny because my heart felt like it was ending. She told me to help move boxes, then made sure to invite her coworkers, cousins, and Marquis. Yes, Marquis. She didn't say his name like a threat. She said it like a flex. He's coming, she told me, smiling. Don't be weird. My hands were carrying furniture while my marriage was being carried out. I kept swallowing my anger because I didn't want to be the man who ruined her moment, even though she'd been ruining me for months. The day of the party, I wore a button-up that still had creases because I didn't have time to iron. Nia came downstairs in a dress that looked expensive and a smile that looked sharper than knives. People arrived with bottles, laughs, and loud compliments. Nia, this house is everything. Girl, you made it. She soaked it up. I stood in the background refilling ice, moving chairs, and being invisible in my own life. Then she did what she loved to do. She made me the joke. She lifted her cup and said, "Y'all, my husband been breaking his back for this. 2 jobs. 2. Look at him, Mr. Hustle Man. Don't he look tired?" Laughter splashed over me like dirty water. Marquis was there, leaning like he paid a bill. He looked at me and smiled like he knew something I didn't. Nia laughed with him, not at all ashamed, not at all careful. Somebody's Annie shouted, "That's right, Darius. Provide," like it was funny. I felt my face get hot. My chest tightened, but I stayed quiet because I didn't want to turn the party into a war zone. Nia wanted a reaction. She wanted me to embarrass myself, so she could claim I was the problem. Instead, I stepped outside for air, stood by the driveway, and listened to music thumping through the walls of a house I didn't feel welcome in. That night, standing alone, I realized something ugly but freeing. Nia didn't love me. She loved what my labor gave her. She loved the image of married woman with a hard-working husband because it looked stable on social media. But she didn't respect me. And love without respect is just possession with better marketing. I thought about my dad, who worked hard and still got talked down to. I thought about all the times I confused sacrifice with value. I went back inside, put on my fake smile, and kept helping because I wasn't ready to leave yet. But I was ready to start protecting myself quietly. 2 weeks earlier, after hearing that speakerphone humiliation, I had already started moving in silence. I opened a separate account at a credit union in Missouri City. I didn't tell anyone. I changed my direct deposit, so a portion went there automatically. I started tracking receipts. I looked at statements Nia never expected me to read. I didn't do it to get revenge. I did it because my spirit was tired of being stepped on with my own shoes. I also checked the house paperwork carefully because something about how fast Nia pushed closing felt suspicious. She acted like details were beneath her, but details are how life stays honest. Here's the part Nia never paid attention to. She wanted control, not partnership. She filled out forms like she was signing autographs, not legal documents. She told people we bought a house, but she kept a tight grip on what I saw and what I signed. I noticed the mortgage wasn't structured like she implied. I noticed her name sat heavier on the responsibility. I noticed my name wasn't attached the way it should be if we were truly together. It was like she wanted me to be the worker, but not the owner. That was fine, because it meant I could step away without being chained to her choices. Quietly, I removed myself from any payment setup I controlled. No drama, just boundaries in paperwork form. So during the party, when her phone rang and the screen said mortgage servicing, I knew exactly what time it was. Nia rolled her eyes like it was annoying and answered like she was queen of everything. "Hello." The rep's voice was calm and professional, loud enough to cut through the music. "Hi, may I speak to Ms. Nia Carter regarding the mortgage account for this address? This call is urgent regarding a return payment and an account status change." The room didn't go silent all at once. It went quiet in pieces, laughter fading, a cousin pausing mid-sip, a few heads turning like they were pulled by invisible strings. Nia smiled too hard. "Return payment? That's not possible." The rep continued, steady. "The auto-pay scheduled Friday failed. We also need to confirm the responsible party. Our records show the primary contact is Mr. Darius Carter. Would you like us to call him directly?" Nia's eyes snapped to me like she'd forgotten I existed until that second. Her hand tightened around her phone. She tried to laugh it off, but it cracked. "No, don't call him. He's busy. People pretended not to listen while listening with their whole bodies. Marquis stopped leaning and stood up straighter. Ms. Loretta's face tightened like she tasted something bitter. The rep, still polite, delivered the real blow. Ma'am, we also show a release of liability request and a change of authorized users earlier this month. The file indicates Mr. Carter is no longer consenting to manage payments. If that's accurate, your next steps are, Nia panicked and tried to take it off speaker, fumbling like her confidence had butter on it. Too late. Everybody had already heard the important words. Mortgage, return payment, no longer consenting. Nia's cheeks flushed. She hit the screen and ended the call. Then she did what she always did. She turned her shame into a weapon and aimed it at me. You did this, she said loudly. You trying to embarrass me. You're jealous. You petty. I didn't yell. I didn't insult her back. I didn't give her the show she wanted. I just looked at her and said, calm and low, you embarrassed yourself. I just stopped saving you. That sentence wasn't revenge. It was truth. People started leaving, slow, awkward exits, like the door was swallowing them one by one. Marquis didn't say goodbye. He slipped out like a man who only likes a woman when she's winning. Nia's cousins suddenly remembered early mornings. Ms. Loretta hissed at Nia in the kitchen, not because Nia was cruel, but because Nia had been exposed. And Nia, still no remorse, stared at me like I was a villain for not carrying her consequences. After the party, Nia followed me down the hallway like a storm cloud. You're gonna pay, she said. No apology. No, I'm sorry. Just threat because that's all she had. I believed her, too, because she'd been punishing me for years just for being tired. That night, I didn't sleep in that house. I grabbed a duffel bag, walked out, and sat in my truck until my hands stopped shaking. I ended up parked behind a Walmart in Richmond, staring at the ceiling like it might explain how love can turn into humiliation. I didn't cry dramatically. I cried quietly, like a man trying not to wake up his own sadness. Then I wiped my face and started planning, because pain didn't pay bills. My private comeback wasn't flashy. It was disciplined. On Monday, I signed a lease on a small apartment near Sugar Land. Clean, quiet, nothing fancy, but it felt like oxygen. I kept working both jobs for a bit, but now my money stayed mine. Without Nia draining me, I saw my bank account do something I hadn't seen in years, breathe. At the warehouse, I had energy to actually focus. My supervisor noticed. I got put on a training track for team lead. Reggie joked, "Look at you, big management," and I laughed for real this time. I started cooking again, simple stuff because it felt good to feed myself without someone making a joke. Peace makes small things feel romantic. Fresh sheets, quiet mornings, a life not built on walking on eggshells. Nia tried to bait me into fights. She sent messages like, "You ruined my life, and everybody knows you weak, and you're gonna crawl back." She never said, "I hurt you." Not once. She tried to guilt me using family talk, how I was abandoning her, like she hadn't abandoned me emotionally a long time ago. I didn't respond much. I kept to business. I filed what I needed to file, protected what I needed to protect, and stopped explaining myself to people who enjoyed misunderstanding me. Some nights were still heavy. Loneliness is real, especially when you're used to having someone in the house, even a toxic someone. But I'd remind myself, lonely isn't the same as disrespected. Quiet isn't the same as humiliation. The funny moments came back as my life stabilized. One day, I tried to assemble a cheap bookshelf, and it collapsed like it had stage fright. I stared at the pile of wood and said, out loud, "I respect your decision." Another time I burned rice, so bad my smoke detector screamed like it was personally offended. I opened windows, waved a towel, and laughed until my stomach hurt because nobody was there to call me pathetic. I could mess up and still be worthy in my own home. And in that space, romance didn't mean begging for kindness. It meant learning how to be gentle with myself and eventually letting myself go on a normal, low-pressure date again, coffee, a walk, real conversation, without feeling like I had to perform to deserve respect. Nothing rushed, nothing loud, just healthy. Nia's karma stayed realistic and sharp. With autopay gone and responsibility sitting where it belonged, the mortgage pressure didn't care about her pride. The pretty house became a stack of urgent letters and late fees. The friends who loved her new beginnings didn't show up for new consequences. Marquis disappeared like he was allergic to accountability. Nia never showed remorse. She just got angrier as reality closed in. My moral lesson was private and permanent. Love without respect will bankrupt you, emotionally and financially, no matter how hard you work. My comeback wasn't a speech. It was a life, stable money, a better position, a peaceful home, and a quiet confidence that came from finally choosing myself. And for the first time in years, I could breathe without asking permission. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.